Week 1 is all wrapped up, so without wasting any time, I'm going to get right into my predictions for Week 2. This week's going to start off with the Bills at the Dolphins on Thursday night. On paper, I feel like the Dolphins should win this game. I think they're the better team, although not by much. However, I just feel like the Bills have the Dolphins' number. The Dolphins always seem to struggle against the Bills. And so even though I was initially going to pick the Dolphins for this one, my gut is telling me that the Bills are going to take it. My prediction is a 27-21 Bills win. 49ers at the Vikings, I feel like, is a pretty easy pick. I am a little impressed by the Vikings from last week, and Sam Darnold definitely made me eat my words. But that was against the Giants. What are they going to do against a real team? I think the 49ers should take this one without too much of a struggle. So I'll say they win 24-13. The Seahawks at the Patriots is actually interesting now that the Patriots shocked everyone and beat the Bengals. It's easy to write that off as a fluke, but still have to give them props. And with how sloppy the Seahawks looked, especially in the first half against the Broncos, it's hard to really have confidence in them if the Patriots defense can play that good. But the Seahawks defense balled out all game, which is something I'm not used to seeing. I have trouble seeing the Patriots pull off two big upsets back to back. I'm going to say the Seahawks escape with a 20-16 win. Giants at Commanders is up next, and even after talking shit about the Giants in literally every video I've made, my expectations for them have still never been lower. That was an ugly game against the Vikings. I think the Commanders just win this one by default. I'll say they take it 23-13. Chargers at Panthers is up, and I don't think there's a lot to say here. I think the Chargers are going to march into Carolina and collect their free win. My prediction for the score is that it's going to be 26-16. And speaking of the Panthers, up next is the Saints at the Cowboys. And the Saints absolutely kicked the shit out of the Panthers, which, congrats, I guess. But much like the Vikings, now that they're playing a real team, I think they're going to get a rude awakening. I'm going to say the Cowboys win 30-20. Now for the Colts at the Packers, I'm really not expecting anything from the Packers until Jordan Love gets back. I just don't see them beating the Colts, even though it's played at Lambeau. I'm going to say the Colts win this one 24-17. The Browns at the Jaguars is probably the second hardest game to predict this week after the Bills and Dolphins. But the Browns game was ugly. And even though they lost to the Dolphins as I expected them to, at least the Jaguars were competitive against a good team. So I'm going to say the Jaguars squeak this one out 23-20. Up next is the Jets at the Titans. The Titans choked a game where their opponent didn't score an offensive touchdown. I feel like I don't have to say much else about the Titans. And as for the Jets, it wasn't pretty against the 49ers, but I think they bounced back this game. It'd be pretty concerning for them if they didn't. I'm going to say this is a 21-17 Jets win. Buccaneers at the Lions, I think, could be a sneaky competitive game. The Buccaneers looked dominant, although it was against the Commanders. And the Lions looked a little bit shakier than I was expecting them to against the Rams. But all in all, I still expect the Lions to win this one. I'm going to say it'll be a 26-21 win. Next up is the Raiders at the Ravens. And I think this is a perfect bounce back game for the Ravens. They had a heartbreaking loss week 1, and I think if the Raiders could only score 10 points against the Chargers, I think the Ravens are just going to pummel them on defense. I'll say this game will be 23-14 Ravens. Rams at Cardinals is up, and while the Cardinals put up more of a fight than I thought they would, I think the way they choked that game away shows that they're still not a good team. Meanwhile, the Rams looked a little bit impressive against the Lions, at least until David Montgomery happened. But I'm going to say the Rams go into Arizona and beat the Cardinals 27-17. Next up is the Bengals at the Chiefs, and if they hadn't pissed all over themselves against the Patriots, I might have honestly picked the Bengals to get an upset here, but I'm not going to believe in them after that game. I'll say the Chiefs win 26-20. Steelers at Broncos sounds like it's going to be a miserable day for Bo Nix. If the Steelers could march into Atlanta and embarrass a team like the Falcons, I think they should march right into Denver and do the same thing there. If the Broncos defense can play like they did in the first half against the Seahawks, maybe they can make it a game, but I think the Steelers shouldn't have any trouble winning this one. I'll say it'll be 21-13 Steelers. Now the Bears at the Texans is an easy one in my eyes. I mean, I said it already, but the Bears didn't score a touchdown on offense and they won. That's not a recipe to consistently win games, unless you're the Steelers. Meanwhile, I picked the Texans to get upset last week and they managed to hold their ground against the Colts. The Texans might be worth the hype, and I think they're going to dominate this game 27-13. And finally, we have the Falcons at the Eagles. The Eagles looked pretty sloppy against the Packers, but a win is a win. I mean, if their offense can look that sloppy and still put up over 30 points, that's not the end of the world. And if the Falcons look as disappointing as they did against the Steelers, I don't think the Eagles are going to struggle too much to win this one. I'm going to say this will be an Eagles win 27-20. And there you have it, those are my picks. I went 12-4 on my picks last week, so let's see how I fare this time.